Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me for the first video and what will be many to come. Whether it's wilderness and survival skills, hiking and backpacking, or just getting started in prepping, I've heard from so many people that they just have no idea where to get started. The internet is an overwhelming place with a ridiculous amount of information, and it can be so easy to get lost or derailed. The entire goal of WTX Mountain Fitness is to give you a foundation to be able to go out on your own, learn more, go down some rabbit holes, and ultimately leave you in a place of confidence. So with that, today I want to get started by giving you an easy and inexpensive way to start on your journey that might come in really handy someday. I'm going to show you how to create a quick and effective emergency kit using just stuff from the dollar store. I want to demonstrate the power of improvisation and show that survival gear does not have to be expensive. So, I went to the Dollar Tree because a lot of the other dollar stores don't actually sell things for $1. And now, due to inflation, this was actually the $1.25 tree. But what do you do? They have a million things that can be used for multiple purposes, and that is entirely the goal here. If you choose an item to carry it in your bag, make sure that it can be used for more than one thing. So just a quick note, all of these items are not listed in order of importance and are not all necessary for your kit, but they are recommended because they all have multiple uses. Starting out, we have our trusty friend, duct tape. It can be used for repairing gear, creating makeshift bandages, securing your shelters, and you can even make temporary shoes if you needed. So anyone familiar with the old show Mythbusters knows the power of duct tape and why you need to carry it at all times. So besides being fashionable, a scarf can be used as a head covering to protect from the sun in a fashionable manner, as a tourniquet or a sling, or to secure a splint for if you have a limb injury. You can also use it to filter larger particulate out of the water, dirt, and sediment. In that case, you still need to probably purify your water, though, in most cases. So really, any sort of cordage is essential. This can be used to tie down gear. You can create snares for trapping. You can tie branches together for shelters. In this case, if your original shoelaces somehow break, now you have a backup. Or if you want to do laundry. I wanted a rain poncho, but unlike the usual clearish white one shown in the background here, they also had this really fashionable pink one. I chose that because if you are lost and you need someone to find you, it is a hell of a lot easier for your rescuers to pick out a pink spot on the hillside. So if it's not raining, and you don't need it to protect you and your gear, you can also use it as a water collector or a ground cover, anything like that. Aluminum foil is another Mac Daddy one. I can't tell you how many times I didn't feel like carrying pots and pans and cooking stuff out into the hills, and I just made a bowl or pan to put my food in, including eggs, and I just set it in the fire. I'm not going to get into the recent health discussion about cooking in contact with aluminum. If you do find yourself in that sort of situation, not of your own volition, the aluminum is probably the least of your worries. Also, you can use it for reflecting heat, like an emergency blanket. You can create a solar oven. You can make fishing lures. You can signal for help and wave it around, or you can attach it to a tree or something. Mostly, your lighter is going to be for one purpose, and that is making fire, or I guess you can melt stuff. sealing the ends of cordage so it doesn't fray. You can sterilize needles or tweezers with your lighter, and it also provides a light source if all else fails. This one, like everything else, was $1.25. However, if you want to invest a little more into something in your kit, this would be it. Because you do not want to be in an oh crap situation and have your trusty multi-tool break on you. It is pretty much used for everything. Heat packs obviously keep you warm, but also provide heat in other not as obvious situations. Let's say you lost your lighter, the door lock on your car is frozen solid. You can warm it up with one of these, or you can heat up food or water, albeit very slightly, and it might take forever. Gloves of the thin medical exam variety or the thicker utilitarian version can be used not only to protect your hands from a myriad of things, but you can create a pouch for collecting water. You can cut the end off of one of the fingers and use that as a funnel, even as a makeshift tourniquet. The blue exam variety, although I really would not recommend that. Use something like a bungee cord, which we'll get to in a second. Pens are in here, obviously for writing and leaving messages, but you can also use the casing to make other stuff like fishing lures, or you can sharpen the end and make a shank for self-defense, or whatever, nobody's judging here. I picked a metallic Sharpie for my kit, this green guy over here, because that ink shows up on most surfaces and it is waterproof. I'd say that's probably your best option for leaving messages, for potential rescue. I also put a very small little notepad that I also got from the dollar store. Post-it notes are also an option for that. As previously alluded to, bungee cords and zip ties, they are good for affixing things to other things, and the applications of that are kind of endless. Again, bungee cords for tourniquets or securing bandages, splints, anything like that. Always remember to bring a towel. I'm not sure how many times that I've been out and about, and I was thankful there was some random towel in the car. In this case, it can be used for filtering water. You can tie it around your arm. If it's hurt, you can put it over your head as a sunshade or use it for hygiene reasons. A magnifying glass can be used to start fires if your lighter has failed, although you generally need the sun to be out for that to work. Otherwise, it's really good for looking at things up close or finding splinters. Dental floss, super versatile. It can be used for fishing line, repairing your gear, making snares, tying down shelters, even for emergency sutures, if you have to improvise a sewing needle, although it would just really suck and you don't want to do that. Flashlight and batteries, you need that to see in the dark. Also, it can be used for signaling. There are a bunch of different kinds, like this one's super flat and would probably be better in that little pack. I ultimately chose this gray one. You want to get extra batteries also to put in your kit. First aid kit and a sewing kit. These are super basic. The sewing kit that I got from the Dollar Tree has these very teeny little scissors, a whole plethora of needles, safety pins and extra buttons, a bunch of thread, and this fabulous paper measuring tape. I guess if you catch a fish and you want to brag, you now have this. The first aid kit was not nearly as robust. There are alcohol prep pads, a couple of gauze pads, and ultimately just a bunch of extra band-aids. Which leads us to needing extra first aid stuff. Again, everything is $1.25. Throw in whatever other first aid stuff that you think you might need. Gauze rolls, tape, the extra medication. There's containers for that. Moleskin for blisters. Little package of moleskin will save you, or especially if you're walking a lot. And then we have the improv items that I like to call the WTF items. So these are just a couple examples of how to improvise like a pro. So a normal person is going to look at a deflated beach ball and go, WTF, how is that going to help you? Well, let me tell you, doubting Dennis, that beach ball might be your best option for carrying water. Or if you don't have a hat and you're out in the blazing sun, guess what? You cut it open, now you got a hat. Same with the party streamer. And no, you're not welcoming the Bigfoots to your camp. Although I guess whatever your goals are, again, this is a judgment-free zone. Whatever you want to do. If you want Bigfoots, great. So you hang that in the trees facing the direction the sun is most of the day. So up here in Wyoming, it's going to be on the south side of the trees because the sun's going to be generally to the south. We will do another video here soon on navigation, how to figure out which way is north, even if you can't see the sun, because that is kind of hampers your efforts there. That leads us to the bag. So this one's entirely up to you. Depends on what's at your local Dollar Tree. It is a function of where you plan on keeping this thing. How much room do you have to store it? Are you planning on carrying it in a bigger hiking bag? So these are all things to consider for size and material. I found this little men's toiletry bag in Digicam, of course, and also this black drawstring bag as the bigger option. Okay, so we got home, and now we need to lay everything out to see what we have. We can make sure that everything is accounted for, we got all of our bases covered. Did we, in fact, buy a bunch of junk that we didn't really need? So you want to save as much space as possible, so it's better to just unwrap everything ahead of time before you arrange it all. Besides, you do not want to be fiddling with packaging in an emergency situation. So unless you have a bag with excess space, like that black drawstring bag, you're pretty much playing Tetris here, making sure all these pieces fit together in the most efficient way possible. So here's another fun sequence. Obviously, everything is limited by the size of the bag you choose. Again, if you want a smaller bag, you might not be able to cram everything you got in there. If that's the case, you need to focus on the essentials. Will what I have in here help me obtain water, fire, and shelter, and also keep space for first aid stuff in there as well? So these are things that I decided not to put in the bag and didn't end up buying them, but I still wanted to bring them to your attention as potential options. Again, it's what works for you. So candles are great. I'd recommend getting one with a lid so that wax doesn't get all over your other stuff. They do take up a bit more space, more so than other things. You can also use that wax for waterproofing or sealing tears in your gear if you have them. They do have bags of jerky or meat sticks that have a reasonably long shelf life that you can throw in there too. So most people are going to think trail mix, which is great, but protein is ultimately more important if you're stuck for a while. Feminine products, not the first thing people would think of, but for first aid, pads and absorbent cotton are just stellar. And then there's LED lights, really just a variant of flashlights. This is kind of absolutely a personal preference thing. More bonus things. Chalk. Obviously used for marking stuff, trees, rocks, etc. You can use it as camouflage. You can put chalk all over your face and your gear. Obviously don't do this if you're waiting for rescue. Also, there are some insects that are deferred by chalk, or deterred. The sunshade in your car, if you're by your car and you ultimately need to stay by your car, if you do get stuck by the way, do not wander away. Your sunshade is a great reflective thing that you can wave around or somehow affix to a tree to get somebody's attention. The toilet paper, those 4 rolls were $1.25. They're not the softest and most amazing thing, but keep it under your seat and you'll thank me later. And lastly, if you want to remodel your kitchen, there are very ritzy tile backsplash things that you can stick on the wall that have absolutely nothing to do with the rest of this. So, in conclusion, Dollar Tree is just one place that you can look for cheap gear. Walmart and Sierra are also 2 places that have super inexpensive stuff, or you can look on clearance shelves and find some good stuff there too. You do not need an emergency kit that costs several $100. That's ridiculous. So this way, you can have one in your car, one in your hiking bag, wherever you need one. And it's just a little more peace of mind in case some craziness happens. So remember, improvising is the key, and you can even do this with stuff you have laying around the house. So I hope you are inspired to put together your own cheap and quick kit, and I want to thank you so much for watching. So stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.